In this tutorial, we will be transforming this abstract video you see on your screen into a fully functioning countdown to be used at your event. The techniques learned in this video can be applied to any abstract background and does not have to be this one specifically. For this specific background, you can check the link in the description to find a course to make it. This course, as well as lots of experience, has taught me everything I know in After Effects. So the first thing I would do is remove this blur. As this is a style and it adds a little bit of peripheral to the actual video, I do not like this style and I prefer it to be nice and crisp. You should have audio adjustment layer right here, not audio, adjustment layer 2 right here, and that should be the blur. What you can do real quick is just click this little I button and it should remove the blur. So that makes you know that this is the blur. You can just leave the I button clicked, that way it will not have it selected anymore and you can't see it. Or you can just go ahead and delete it like I will. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to change the color. So right now it's got a nice red color, but I think I'm going to change it for blue for this tutorial. So you want to right click on, not that, on the side or area over here, click new, and click solid. So right now I have dark blue solid, and what you want to do is you want to set it to like a really dark blue, like I have right here, or a really dark version of whatever color, and I'll show you why in just a minute. So I'm going to hit OK, and it names it dark blue solid on its own. Hit OK. Oh yes, that's supposed to happen. What you want to do after this is you want to make sure toggle switches and modes is set to where it looks like this. If it looks like this, that is how you fix it. You want to click this normal button and change it to hue. And now it is a nice bright blue color. And so you might notice that these are bright blue and this is like a dark blue in the background, and yet we set it to dark blue everything. That's because if we delete this real quick, then we have this very bright red and very dark red here. So if you were to change it to a brighter color instead of the dark that I have right here, see, it just says blue now, and hit OK, and then move it under the camera and change it to hue, everything would be super bright blue. It changes this bright red to a bright blue, but it also makes all the background really blue. So I like to have the very dark blue. This is a really nice blue color. So the next step we're going to do is we're actually going to be making the timer. So you want to go up into this section up here, right click, and click new composition. So we're going to want this to be named timer 1. Alright, so first step is timer. And then second, you want to make sure HDTV 1080p is selected. So for me, this whole video is 1080p. If you're making yours 4K, then you're going to want to set this to a lot higher than 4K. But basically, I want the aspect ratio of 1080p, which is 16:9 right here. But I want it to be 4K. So just type 3840 here. And as long as you had the aspect ratio all set up for 1080p, this should change to 160. Basically, I'm always scaling things up and messing with things in the timer composition, and I really don't want it to be blown up, so instead I'm going to shrink it down from 4K to 1080p. So we want to click OK here, set this to fit, and this is our 4K video here. We want to click over here, click new, solid. We'll name this timer and make sure this is black. Press OK, and we can lock that. Press OK. We want to also click this button. That way it should be transparent in the background instead of having a black background. Numbers. So you want to go into the effects and presets area and type numbers, as I already have, and then drag it over here and put it on your timer composition. You want to have it vertical, probably in the center. You can also change your font to whatever you want, and the style for if you want bold or italic or anything like that. But I'm just going to stick with this and regular because I think that's what I already had. And that stinks. It made it super small. So I don't know why this always comes in super small. You can come up here and see all of the values. First, you want to set this to timecode 30. You may not be able to notice, but it did change. I don't know why it's coming in so small, and I don't know that there's a way to size. Okay, size here. So, yeah, that's what I was looking for. Okay. Now it's not blurry anymore, and it's big. Although now it's way too big because it's 1080. It's 4K now. Okay, give me a minute. Okay, so cancel. What you want to do is right-click on your timer right here. We're just gonna undo setting it to 4K. Composition settings, and you want to set this to HDTV 2997. You can see that that's super blown up. We'll fix that in a minute. And press OK. That'll fix that. Now I can fix the size of the countdown of the timers in numbers and size up in the effect controls for timer. So have timer selected, and this should be showing up at the top. If you're seeing this, it should be right here. Just click it. Set it to, I don't know. We'll keep it normal. We'll write 275. Exactly. There you go. That works. So one thing that you may notice is it's moving a whole bunch as your numbers are changing. That just like makes my eye shake and is annoying. So you want to uncheck proportional spacing. That will spread them out a little bit more, and it should make it still. Alright, now that we have our timer, next step is going to be right-clicking on the timer and clicking time. So we can also right-click on the timer right here, click time, and time reverse layer. So what this will do is instead of counting up, it will count down. So you can see it's a couple seconds after 5, and we'll narrow that down in a minute. We will also remove the hours and the milliseconds because they don't need to be there, and so you'll be left with just, oh, and the 0. So you'll be left with just the 503. Alright, so remember to save at all times, or instead of hitting Control S, you can hit File and Save. I just saved it, so there's nothing to save. So next step, before we go on, which I actually forgot this step, is you want to go up here to tracking. So make sure you have timer selected and go into effect controls up here. What you want to do is you want to click tracking, and I usually set this to like 18, I think. Yeah, so what this will do is, one, we're cutting off the milliseconds and hours, so that'll make that much easier, makes these spaces really big, but it also makes the space between these really big, because before, if I hit Control Z, before I was kind of mushed with the 0, and that would be really hard if we were trying to cut off that, and especially with the 5 and the 0, if we go to 4, it's like mushed right there, and it would have been hard to cut off without cutting off the 4, and so if we go to tracking, change it to 18, now, we've got a big open space. Next, we're going to close the timer and go back into project up at the top. We're going to drag and drop this timer underneath the camera. Now you should see your timer composition dropped in front of this. So you may notice it still has 4 seconds. We want it to be 5 minutes, not 5 minutes and 4 seconds. So skip ahead, it's super laggy, and I'm super zoomed in, so it's not even doing anything. Because there's so much going on in the scene, it is really laggy. I'm actually going to turn off the glow for now, just for while I'm working. I feel like that makes it run a little bit faster. Zoom in once we get close enough, and then set it to... we'll set it to the maximum of 5 minutes, so that you have actually like 5 minutes and 1 second. If you don't want that, then that's fine. But I like having it there for a second right before it starts. What I want to do is I actually want to drag this timer. Make sure you're dragging the timer one, not one of the other ones. And line it up with this so that it starts right here. Alright, and then we want to drag this over all the way to the end. And remember, the plus and minus buttons on the keyboard are how I'm zooming in and out to get really precise with this. Okay, so now we've got our 5-minute timer in our countdown. If we turn on the glow, there's the glow. Next, we're going to be changing the color. I actually forgot to do this a minute ago. The first way of doing this is just dragging it under the dark blue. I really don't like how this blends, but there's actually a way you can make it blue and break that blending. So we're going to open our timer. We are going to go up. Okay, so you're going to click on the timer solid, go to effect controls, and we're going to change this from fill only to fill over stroke. And so now the stroke is white and the fill is red. So if we go back in here, you can see that there's a white line around our numbers, around the blue, and that makes it stand out in the areas that it's blending in, even though we wouldn't be using these areas anyways because we're about to mask all that off. You still want it to pop even in the middle where we are using. So yeah, now that kind of looks a little weird to me. I don't know, maybe it's me, but I think I want to set this to maybe like 5, maybe. And so let's go back, not here. Let's go back into our countdown. Okay, that looks a little crisper. It does still seem to be pixelated around the edge. I don't know what's up with that. So if you know how to fix that, comment below. Another way to do that is if you don't want it to be blue, let's say you want it to be green. First, move it back above the blue, because no matter what, it's going to keep turning it blue if you do that. But you go back into your timer, and you just change this fill color. Right? And then we go back. Boom, green. I'm going to go with the blue with the white for me. And with the 5-stroke width, turn off the... Okay, so next we are going to be chopping off this section and this section. So what you want to do is go up to the top and select this rectangle tool, or you can drag it. If you click and hold it, then it'll tell you which one of these you're using, and you want to select rectangle. Unless you really want to select another one, but those can be more difficult, so I would recommend you just go with rectangle for the simple thing we're doing right now. So you want to make sure you're lined up here and here, so if you're trying to get really close, you might you cut off the edge of the 5. So make sure you get the whole 5, but basically this will mask your entire thing. So you just select all 5. I'm sorry, it's so blurry, it really makes my eyes water and stuff, it bugs me. But there we go. Okay. So now we have the 5. I actually want to stick the timer underneath the adjustment layer, and this adjustment layer is the glow. So now the 5 will have the numbers will have a little bit more of that glow. Now that I'm looking at this, I actually want the numbers to be bigger, and so this is where trial and error comes in. It's a lot. After Effects, especially the way I do it, is a lot of you just fiddle with it until you get it perfect. So I actually want to turn up the size to maybe something like that, because again, I want to shrink it, and we're only using this little bit in the middle. So let's go back to our normal thing. Remember to save at all times. You can also do Control S, and see how I have this mask here. It's no longer the right size, so I want to undo, and now we can go in and change the size. I put it all the way up, and close, save. Alright, now we want to make sure we have the rectangle tool selected, and we want to cut open our countdown. There we go. Yes, so now this is nice and crisp, and it's not blown up. It's still got this pixelating on the edge. I wish that wasn't there, but I don't really know how to remove it, as I said before. I think I said before, unless that was part of the cuts. So if you know how to get rid of all this pixelation, please do comment it below. We're just going to click on the timer and hit P. That will bring the position. You can also click this thing, transform position. Alright, and then we are going to select this one and move it over to the middle. So whenever it looks like the middle, 770, about the middle. If you move this one instead of that, it'll go up and down. You can just Control Z and fix that. Or if you want it to go up and down, then there you go. So I also want to turn off the keyframe because I'm setting this as the starting point. I have auto keyframes turned on, so you may not have that keyframing the way I do. But yeah, so I will have keyframes every now and then. Next thing we want to do is make it to where this countdown is a 3D object instead of being something that moves with the camera. You can see how it's squared with the camera right now, and when we move to where the camera has changed angles, it is still squared with the camera. We want it squared here, and we want it to be a little offset there. So first, we want to click the toggle switches and modes, and select this little box right here that should make this into a square. That should make it do this. Yes. Okay. So what this did is it put it in line with the front of the screen, and since the camera moves, it's no longer lined up with the camera. So as this is rendering, and I don't want it to render, as the camera moves, the countdown will move with it, which is really nice. So I think I want my timer's position. Okay, P. I think I want to raise it up just a tad. So for the last 5 seconds, you can see everything is still there, and then it just kind of stops. I like having everything block dissolve or something other to a complete black. That way it makes it easier for the next transition into a slide. It's not this blue screen, it's just suddenly jumping. What I want to do is I want to apply a block dissolve. I'm just going to apply this to everything, and I'll be back when I finish that. Okay, I dragged and dropped the block dissolve into every single one of these. There may be an easier way to do that. I don't know of it right now. I'm not Googling it right now. So, there's not a ton to work with. I just did it real quick. But if you're working with a lot more than this, or you just don't want to do that, or you just want to do it in the most efficient way possible, then just Google it real quick, and you should be able to find a way to mass produce them into all these. I really don't know, though. This part, I almost think that it might be worth doing, though, is that I'm going to apply this same exact transition at the same exact time to all of them. So basically, for keyframes, you can copy paste. So that is what I will do. I will select the keyframes and copy paste them. But yes. So we're going to okay. So we're going to animate the block dissolve transition for all of these different items, or at least just one, and then apply it to all. So this is 2 seconds. I lined it up perfectly. You should be able to go over here, click completion 0. You should be able to jump to the end. I want it to last the longest, so we've got the line graph now to dissolve. I believe it's one of the shadow ones now that I think about it. We're going to drop down into effects, block dissolve, and we see our keyframes yet. Okay, transition completion 50%. Good. So this is at 0%. Now it's at 35%. Now it's at 100%. So that is what we wanted to see there. So we're going to copy paste this. So you can just drag your mouse and select these two keyframes and hit Control C. Then we should be able to go into the main line graph, which we can see because it does not have the fast blur. This is the main one. Effects, block dissolve, and then Control V. Problem. It pastes it wherever the starting point is at your cursor. So we need to go and open the first one again. We need to line up with this. So that's really simple. You press this little arrow, and this should say add or remove keyframe at the current time, and that means you are exactly on that one. So this is done, and we should be able to select this one and paste. And now we should see our dissolve in action on the main line graph. Oh, look at that. Okay, so you see how it's super pixely when it's doing that? It's a block dissolve, so it's supposed to be like that. But I think I want to make those a lot bigger. Okay, I'm back. So there's a couple settings I liked. I liked setting it to 25. I think that gives it the nice pixely blocky that I was going for. I also turned off soft edges, which made it super blurry. The feather did about the same, but through trial and error, I picked out exactly how I want it. And I have no idea how to set all of this, so maybe I can select all of this and copy paste it. So, trial and error. I'm gonna see how this goes. Just paste it here. Block dissolve, and it set this to off and set it to everything. Okay, this is not in the right positions. So, I need to set all the right positions, but in general, proof of concept, I think it worked. Make sure you press this arrow to where you are on the first keyframe, and then don't move this after that. Go to this, Control V, go to this, Control V, go to all of these. Don't put it on the grid, but put it on all the rest is what I did. But again, make it where you want it. So I'm just going to skip ahead now because I don't need that spot anymore. And look at that. It's pixelating everything. If you don't like this, you don't need this. You can do it a different way. But I think especially when it actually runs, it's going to kind of disappear slowly. I think it's going to look pretty nice. So now here, I want to start it for all the rest. So this is where the timer ends, and I want everything to end there. Perfect. Perfect. And then these can go past. It doesn't really matter. So now I want to, so I'm at the very end of the countdown. All right, so I want to go to the very end of everything else. I want to start the dark blue solid, Control V, timer, Control V, and the adjustment layer, Control V, and the grid, Control V. So what this should do is it should block dissolve everything. Oh, okay. You see how this is making it red? If you like that kind of glitching out, ooh, I might actually like that. Ooh, I don't know. So that's basically the dark blue solid is dissolving before the blue has already dissolved. So I may not like that. I don't know. So I'll be back in just a minute. I'm going to run this and we'll see what that actually looks like. Okay, just finished. It does look pretty nice, but here's the problem. It doesn't finish. It just kind of disappears. So my transition is too slow for these. So what I need to do is, I'll do it on the timer because it's most obvious. We need to go to we need to drop this down, go to effects, block dissolve. Okay, it's at 2%, right? And see, this is way past the ending. So we need to select this and drag it over here somewhere. And then, did I get that perfect? That's funny, I did get that perfect. Okay, so that is what we need to do on all of these. So highlight all this, Control C, minimize, Control V, Control V. I didn't put it on the camera, right? I don't think I put it on the camera. I hope not. And Control V. I don't think I put it on the camera. That would have been dumb. Alright, this may have even fixed the red problem. It looks like it did fix the red problem. I don't actually see it applying to the grid, though, which is kind of disappointing. I don't know what it's doing. I don't know why those are taking so long. The grid didn't do it at all. Okay, so I'll figure out the grid in a second. Just finished rendering off this last section of the tutorial, and this is the end result of the transition out. Yeah, I really like that. So the red, if that bugs you, you might be able to get rid of it by doing one, if you set the countdown, the color of the countdown to be blue, that might remove that problem, because then even though this is disappearing, it's staying blue anyways. Um, Another option would be to make this not disappear yet and do a very fast dissolve as soon as it finishes. Now that you have made your 5-minute countdown, you are able to use this wherever you want. If this is above your level to make, or you do not own a copy of After Effects, you can just go in the description and see the link to the actual finished product, and you can check that out on YouTube as well. Be sure to leave a like if you want to support the video, subscribe if you want to support the channel, and ring the bell if you want to see any more content in After Effects. Be sure to comment if you have any suggestions for what I should do in the future or change. You can also comment if you get stuck or need support with the content learned in this video.